Alicia Manning.
I'm Stuart Manning, and we've been wanting to tell our story for a long time, and it's a really long story and we tell a lot of people, and so we figured we'd make a video that tells kind of what and why and how we got here. So I'll let Alicia start.
Okay, so a little bit about me and Stu. Let's see. What's the story? It's like almost 100 degrees right now. It's really hot. Let's see. What's our story? I grew up in San Jose, California, and I am the oldest of 5 kids. And my mom's from England, my dad's from California, and my dad's parents grew up in Ogden. And my mom's parents, her dad grew up in England and her mom is from Ireland. And then I ended up getting married in '92 and moved out to Utah, had a baby, and then went back to California, stayed there for 8 years, then had a strong feeling I needed to be back in Utah. And let's see, and then around 2008, I got divorced and had 3 kids at that time, Taylor, Jordan, and Nathan, 2 girls and a boy. We talked for quite a while, online and on the phone. And then we met and dated ever since, and then got married in 2010 in the Salt Lake Temple. So Stuart and I have been married since August 31st of 2010.
Yep.
And what else? Stuart grew up in Washington State. I'll let you tell a little bit about you and your family.
Yep. I grew up in Washington State, and in 91 to 93, I went, served a church mission, went to Japan, came back to Washington for just a little bit, went to Rexburg, Idaho, and then I got married and went down to California, and then I was down in California pretty much till 2006, and then
in Southern California.
In Southern California.
Corona.
And then from there moved up to Utah in Saratoga Springs in 2006, and then the recession hit around 2008, and that's when I was divorced. And I'd say right after that I talked to Alicia here on the phone, and I really liked her, but the divorce was too fresh, and I was like, I wasn't ready for another relationship. But in fact, I knew she was a great gal, and so I even tried to hook her up with one of my buddies. I was like, hey, I know this great gal, but I'm glad that didn't work out.
Me too. He was way too old. We
Yeah,
never ended up going out, by the way.
Yeah. So, anyways, about a year later, we actually met in person, and then we were dating ever since, and then 2010 we were married.
And your parents, where did they grow up?
And my parents grew up, my dad in San Diego and also in Las Vegas, and my mom, I always get mixed up, I think it was South Carolina.
Uh-oh.
I'm pretty sure it's South Carolina, not North Carolina. But, and or Ohio, I think is in there. Anyways, I need to find that out.
And he's the oldest also of 6 kids.
Yep.
And then, so he has 3 children.
Yep.
Haley, Hayden,
and
Holly. Haley's married and lives in Oregon, and Hayden's going to Utah State, and Holly is a senior in high school. And my 3, my oldest is Taylor, a girl, and she is married with a baby, and she trains horses and gives riding lessons. And the next one is Jordan, and she is 17. She graduated early from high school this year in 2020, And so she's still figuring out what she'd like to do. She loves animals, so she'd love to work with animals and horses, and so she also has a horse. And then Nathan, he is 15, and he loves video games and YouTube. He wants to make YouTube videos. He also loves music, and he's learning the piano. So anyway, so our story, let's get to that. So we are here in Elsinore, Utah. We've never heard of that in our entire lives. And it's in Sevier County. It's the tiniest little town you've ever seen. You could literally hold your breath through it. There is not a single stoplight here. And do you know how many people are here?
Well, the sign I think says 700 or 800.
Yeah, it may be a little more now, but
Yeah.
it's a really tiny town. And I didn't grow up a farmer. Stuart didn't grow up a farmer. But when I was a teenager, I remember talking to my brother Adam, and we talked about getting prepared for the last days. So I grew up a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I still am a member, and Stuart as well. That's the church he served a mission for in Japan, in Okayama. And in the scriptures, we believe in the Bible and the Book of Mormon. So in the scriptures, both of them, talks a lot about the last days in preparing before Jesus Christ comes. So anyway, my brother and I, we were talking as teenagers about how I would especially like to have my home made so that in the last days, if we do not have power or running water, that I end up having a well and somehow to still cook bread and maybe a wood burning stove and farm our own food and have our own chickens and things like that, and just so we can be prepared for things to come. So it is, what's today? Is today August 1st or 2nd? I think it's the 2nd now.
31st of July.
No, it's not.
It's not? Okay. Then it's the 1st.
Anyway, so now I've lost my train of thought.
So we're talking about, we're in Elsinore, and you were talking about how you.
I brought the date up for a reason.
Oh, well, you had you were saying that you had some sort of you were talking about the end of days, kind of, right? You wanted to be able to prepare.
Yeah. So, I brought up the date. Sorry, my memory is lovely. So I brought up the date because it's 2020, the year 2020. And everybody knows what's been happening now with the whole coronavirus and masks and now forcing of vaccinations and who knows what else. Telling people they can't sing in church, closing down businesses.
Riots.
I mean, this is just all of a sudden just insane. So what happened, let's see, around 2013 or 14, we bought a house in Eagle Mountain, and we were going to stay there and not move till our kids grew up. Probably stay there till then or even forever, because it was a pretty decent house. It was a nice size, and it had been remodeled inside pretty much. Had a nice big yard. It was in a good area, and it was a really good price, $214,000 for a really decent sized home with a very big backyard, huge, and a walkout basement.
Right in suburbia.
And we liked it there. We really liked it there. We weren't planning on ever moving. We even tore up the carpet so that Stuart could put in a hard floor for me so that I could teach Irish dancing to little girls.
In our walkout basement.
Yeah, so I learned Irish dancing when in my early 20s, and I loved it. So I thought, I'm going to teach Irish dance. Well, then...
Well, and just a side note also, my children lived with their mother, and she was living, you know, really only about 5 to 7 miles away, which was perfect.
Yeah,
You know,
before
a
that
lot
though,
closer.
before that they were in California for 3 years after they
Yeah.
got divorced. So Stuart had to drive every other weekend. He was driving or flying to see his children in Corona. And that was really hard on him, but he did that for 3 years. And so he was so happy when they came back. And then when we got a house that was only a few minutes from their house, he was happy, I was happy, and it was working. We had enough bedrooms for everybody, and we were fine. We were totally happy.
Yeah, we're in a very good comfort zone, I think.
Yeah, we were done, and we were ready to just kind of settle and
kind of cruise to retirement, and you know, just raise the kids and retire and live happily ever after.
So then I remember though, one Christmas, the last Christmas before we moved out of that house, as I was either taking the ornaments off the tree or putting them on, I can't remember. I think may have been putting them on, and I had this thought telling me it'll be the last time there. And I was like, what is that all about? So anyway, then I met a friend. Her name is Rachel, and I'll just say Rachel W. in case people don't want to have their names put in here. And she has in-laws in this little tiny town called Joseph, which is right next to Elsinore. And she and I became friends. She homeschooled, I homeschooled, and we met up. I just said one day on Facebook, hey, we need to make some friends for my kids. I would love to meet some people, and we're going to Thanksgiving Point. So if anybody wants to meet us there, that would be great. So she showed up, so did another mother with her children. But Rachel and I really hit it off, and we were talking a lot. She was telling me how the people out here are preparing for things to come with first aid supplies. The church is asking them to store things. And I told Stuart, I said, hey, maybe we should check it out. And, before this, see, I'm already jumping. Before this happened, I had this feeling, and I had said a prayer. Sometimes I write my prayers down just because, as you could already tell, I forget things very easily and I get sidetracked really easy. So I would write my prayers every once in a while. So one time I wrote my prayer down and specifically asked Heavenly Father to let me know where's a safe place for our family, and if we should be in that house that we had just bought, just tore the carpet up to put hard floor in for my teaching dancing. And I said I want to live in a place that's safe, where we can grow our own food, and most importantly though, I wanted to be able to have enough abundance to share with other people, because I knew that not everybody would be prepared. Even we won't all the way be prepared. Nobody can be perfect in that, but we can get close if we try. But I didn't want to just have enough for our family. I wanted to have enough for our children. When our children get married, and their spouses and their children, and even their parents and strangers, there's no way we could ever turn anyone away. We will give our last piece of bread and our last sip of water to somebody who didn't have any for days, when we've just had some, just because we're like that. And so I told God, I said, I want to have a place that will feel safe and be able to have abundance to share. And that's when I met Rachel, and that's when she told me about this little town called Joseph. So I went and told Stuart, and I said, hey, we should check this out. They've been preparing out here, and it sounds like a neat place to go. Stuart said, no way, because we just bought a house. No way, we're not going, because we had just moved there, and his kids were finally close to him. And I said, okay, yeah, you're right. So like a month or two later, I bugged him again, and I said, hey, I think we should really, I just have a feeling we should go check it out. He says, no way absolutely not. He actually kind of got upset at me, and he doesn't get upset, but he was really serious. He's like, no, we're not moving. My kids are here. And so then I felt bad, and I was like, yeah, you're right. I don't want to do that to him. So I dropped it, and I never brought it up again. Not a word. Then a couple months later, it was a Saturday morning, and I was super duper sick. I had a really bad head cold and a sinus infection, a fever. I felt absolutely awful, and I had gotten run down like all week, but by Saturday I was at my worst. And so I was just in bed this Saturday morning, and it was like 10 o'clock, and Stuart says to me, hey Leisha, I think we should go check out that town in Joseph. I have this feeling we should check it out. And I'm laying in bed dying, and I'm like, no, you're right, we shouldn't move. That was a dumb idea. We just bought this house, and you're right, we need to stay where your kids are too. And he says, no, I really feel like we should. And I'm like, no, it's crazy. You told me that was a crazy idea, and I said, you're right, we shouldn't do it. That's just insane. And he says, no, I really feel like we need to go. Now, he doesn't do this, ever, hardly ever.
No.
But when he does have a strong impression, I've learned to listen, because I'm the big loudmouth, if you can't already tell, which is why I'm doing most of the talking. But when he says something, I listen. When he gets serious, I listen. And so I was like, well, hun, I'm really, really sick. He also is the one to make me rest, because I always go and push myself till I'm really sick, and I don't take a break, and then...
And I'm like, hey, you need to just stop and relax. Lay down, sleep. That's what's going to heal you.
But he didn't do that this time.
And let me just say, I definitely had no intention of going down there. I was kind of upset with her, keep bringing it up, because we finally had gotten to a point where we could buy this house, and I just had these thoughts keep coming. It wasn't just thoughts, it was just like this drive. Hey, you need to go out there and look. Go out there and look. And I had no reason why. We just had to go out there. And Leisha wasn't feeling good, and I was just like, I remember telling her, well, we need to go out there. And I just had this feeling, and if she's not feeling good, I'm just don't worry about it. I'll take care of it or do something. But I just felt overwhelmingly that she had to come with me, and so I said, just take some medicine and come. You can sleep in the car or whatnot. Let's just go take a look. So we did.
And so we were in Eagle Mountain, which is about 2.5 hours from Elsinore, or Joseph. It was Joseph we had heard about, not Elsinore. And so I said, okay. Well, at first I said, you should just go yourself. And he said, no, I really feel strongly that you need to be there too. And I was like, oh my goodness, okay, fine. So I took everything, literally. Ibuprofen, Excedrin, Sudafed, Mucinex. That's how bad I felt, just to make the trip. And we went down, and we drove around. We looked at some houses on KSL.
I didn't even know why we were looking at houses. I was like, why are we even looking out? We didn't even know why we were down here, but we were like, well, let's just, I guess for kicks and giggles, look at some properties and some houses while we're down here, just to look. And so we did. Nothing jumped out at us or anything. You're just like, okay, we're here. So then we got a hotel.
Yeah, we didn't know why we were here. We looked at a few places and then just decided to get a hotel and then go to church the next day, and maybe something will stand out at church. So the next day I felt worse. I woke up and I felt absolutely horrible again. And I said, there's no way I could do this. And this time he didn't push me. He just said, okay, yeah. And he kind of like gave up on the idea. But then it was kind of bugging me a lot that we came out here for what? There's got to be a reason. So I was like, well, let me take a shower, get ready, eat, take some more medicine. And by that time, I was feeling better, or good enough anyway, to go to church. So we looked up online what building to go to for the Latter-day Saint Church, for the Church of Jesus Christ, because they have a building locator that you can look up online. And we looked up the Joseph Ward. A ward is just a certain area.
It's like a congregation.
Yeah, a congregation that lives within a certain few blocks or whatever. They just kind of divide it up between the neighborhoods, depending on how many members there are. So anyway, we were looking up Joseph Ward, and we ended up at the Joseph or building. We get in there, we go sit down. There's quite a few older people there, not too many young families, and and we look at the program. They always would print out a program, and it said on the program, Stuart picked it up and looked at it, it said Elsinore Ward. And he's like, we're not in the right place. We got to get out. We got to go find the right ward. So I said, well, hold on, let's just ask somebody really quick. So we went and asked one of the members, and they said, oh, the Joseph Ward met that morning, and this is the Elsinore Ward. And so we didn't really have another place to go because it had already met. And I said, well, let's just stay because there's not really another option. So while we were sitting there, before church started, this man walks up, and he stops by our pew, and he introduces himself, and he says, hi, I'm Ken S. I'll say that. And he says, what brings you here to Elsinore? And we both looked at each other, Stuart and I looked at each other, and we're like, when we looked at Ken, and we're like, we don't know. We have no idea. Stuart says, we have no idea why we're here. We just felt prompted to be here. These are our little ducklings, and they're going crazy. They're making a lot of noise.
Sorry about the duck sound, but...
So anyway, and then we look back at Ken, and he's standing there starting to get teary-eyed and choked up, and he kind of pats his chest so that he could talk, and he says, we prayed you here. And Stuart and I just looked at each other like, what? What in the world? And then he says, welcome. And we said, thank you. And he went and walked further down the aisle and walks up and sits up on the stand. So then we knew he was part of the bishopric. And then they said an opening prayer. And during the opening prayer, it had a lot to do with the saints preparing in Zion and getting ready in the last days. And Stuart and I look at each other again like, huh. And then the opening hymn, we'd never even heard this song before. We grew up in the church. We grew up going to church since we were born. And we had never heard this song. And if it was sung, we don't remember because it wasn't a popular song that they sang all the time. But the song even was, the lyrics described this valley where we are right now with the mountains surrounding us, just a safe place. And we looked at each other again. And then, so this Sunday happened to be Fast Sunday, where you fast for 24 hours for a purpose, for help from Heavenly Father. And just this day happened to be a Fast Sunday, and I decided to get up and bear my testimony. The members of the church can get up and they can share their testimony of God and of Jesus Christ. And I told them how we felt welcome and we felt love here in this congregation. But I also had mentioned we didn't know why we were there, but we felt strongly we needed to be here. Well, while I'm up there, I didn't know this was happening, but I'll let Stuart tell you.
So Alicia goes up, and I'm like, okay, in this strange congregation, you want to do this? Okay, that's fine. I guess when the Spirit moves you. But when you're in a different congregation, you're looking around, scanning, what and who's in the congregation, and I noticed this gentleman in the back. He was just kind of sitting there, and then I look around, and I look back again. He's like a few pews closer to me, and then after I look around a little bit, he's a little bit closer, and then he's a little bit closer, and next thing you know, he's like right behind me, and he's like tapping on my shoulder. Hey, I gotta show you this house. Okay, he just wanted to show me this house, and I was like, okay. I mean, we didn't have any agenda at all. We just went down there to see what was happening. We were completely open to see what was going to happen while we were there. So, anyways, go ahead, Lee.
So also, Stuart is an electrician.
Oh, yeah.
When did you become an electrician?
Well,
when did you start?
I became an electrician in 1996.
And so he's been doing that. He's an electrical contractor now. So how many years now? Let's see. It's
a lot.
It's 2020.
Yeah.
You do the math.
24.
20. Yeah, that's crazy. So anyway, he's an electrician, and this town is so small. He was worried about work and what he would do for work. Well, it just so happened we found out during this meeting, because other people had gotten up to share their testimonies. They mentioned that the bishop was an electrician, and so we were like, whoa, well, he'll be talking to the bishop afterward, find out about work and what he might be able to do. And then after it was all over, after the meeting, the sacrament meeting, a lot of people came up and said, thank you for sharing your testimony and welcome. And one lady in particular who ended up being my friend, and her name is Marcy, and she was so happy, and it just made me feel so good. She was just so excited to introduce herself to me and meet me, and I was excited to meet her. She was just so happy and welcoming, and she ended up staying for the next meeting afterward, which she said she usually didn't. She would just go for a sacrament meeting and then go home. And her mom is also in the same ward, and her mom heard this, that she was going to end up staying for this second meeting, and her mom said she didn't even stay for Mother's Day. They just had Mother's Day a month before. And so she was like, what's making Marcy stay for this total stranger? So I felt bad. I said, well, you don't need to stay just for me. And so she did anyway. And we sat together. And then she says, what are you doing afterward? And I said, well, nothing really. We'll probably just go home.
We had no clue.
Yeah, she said, well, we're having a birthday for my niece, and you're welcome to come to dinner with my family. Well, it just so happened that she is the sister of the bishop, who's the electrician. Then we find out also that the entire family is electricians, and so we ended up meeting all of them, and they were all so welcoming and so friendly, and talking about their work, and her dad Kevin, who started the electrical company, and now all of her brothers work and do all of this, and now even her son works for this electrical company. But they were just so kind and welcoming, and they are commercial electricians, right? Or they do more.
They
more
do it
commercial?
all. They do it all.
Oh.
They're great electricians.
Well, are they like more commercial?
They do a lot more commercial and industrial. They'll do residential.
The only reason I brought that up is just because then it wasn't a clash if my husband comes out here and does electrical. But they are so swamped all the time anyway, so it wouldn't have been a big deal of stepping on toes or whatever. So that made Stuart feel way more comfortable meeting them. And anyway, but before we went to dinner with them, we met with this man who had tapped Stu on the shoulder during church. and his name is Sean. And Sean, what was he in the military? Do you know?
I do know, but he wants to keep it kind of quiet.
Oh, okay. But he'd been through 3 bombings, and he's young. And I'm, how old am I now? 47? Oh gosh. So I'll be 48 December. And Sean is, I think, just a few months older than me. And so we met him 6 years ago. He'd been through 3 bombings, so much, and it caused so much pain that, and severe injury to his spine too, that he couldn't take care of this huge property of his. And he and his wife and kids ended up moving back to Idaho and left the property. So this property that we're on right now in Elsinore is an old home that started as a 2-room rock house in the 1850s, and then they finally built upon it and finished it by 1920. And then they ended up bringing an old cabin from Tory Lane from the Higgins family onto this property. And it's the Lawrenson family home in Elsinore, and they came from Denmark, and then built this house, and it's 1.22 acres, and they have 2 water shares. And the Higgins son ended up marrying the Lawrenson daughter. So Ethel Lawrenson and Foy Higgins got married, and then they inherited the house. And so then they raised their children here, and we actually ended up meeting their children. Some of them, actually. A lot of them live in Washington State, and they came out even. Tori, a granddaughter of Ethel, she felt strongly that she wanted to get Ethel's old furniture that she had worked really hard for during the war.
Well, let's
I'm jumping
back up.
around.
You're jumping all around.
I'm jumping around, but it's okay, because I'm going to finish that story really quick.
All right.
I'm just trying to bring it all in, but Tori ended up driving down with her father from Washington State to bring this furniture back into this house. And we were just so honored. And just to feel trusted. They don't even know us, but I made a Facebook page about this whole crazy story of how we ended up doing all of this. But anyway, so we meet Sean,
there you go.
and he shows us this whole property, and he says, I can't take care of it anymore. It's just too hard on me. I'm not sure if I want to sell it. Maybe you guys could be caretakers of it, and then if you want, we could agree on a purchase price, and then maybe 5 years from now, if you want to buy it, you can buy it. So anyway, the 5 years is up right now, this year, 2020. Of all years, 2020. And what brought us back here? So what happened was when Sean told us about this and all these things happened, Stuart and I are driving home that night, and we're saying, this is so crazy, because everything in my prayer that I prayed about, that I had written down, it is exactly what we could use to feel safe and secure and to be able to farm. And so we decided that we would sell our house and move out. We had only been in our house a year.
Yeah.
And we were driving home late that night, and on that Sunday night.
Go ahead.
And I said, you know what? If we don't do this, we're going to be in serious trouble. We really knew, both of us knew, God was saying, this is where you need to go. So we were like, oh gosh. So we went and told our kids, and even my daughter, Jordan, when I was telling her the story, she stops me in the middle of the story and says, Mom, if you don't do this, you are going to be in big trouble. So it was reiterated to me what I had told Stu the night before on the way home.
Well, and I really, I was really troubled. One, because I had just finally gotten close to, distance-wise, with my kids, and I was like, okay, finally. But I just had this feeling that I needed that I had to come here, and that I was being told I had to, and I can't deny it. I felt the Holy Spirit move me such that I had to act, and I knew if I didn't, I would be going, against what I was being told, and so we did. We moved out here, and we were here for
almost 3 years.
Yeah, almost
So
3 years.
Jordan and Nathan came with us, and we ended up taking care of horses and goats and chickens and ducks, and then it started getting kind of hard because Jordan really had a hard time with school and making friends in a tiny town. So she decided she wanted to go back up north and go to school and stay at her dad's house, which was really heartbreaking for me. Also, Stuart was having a hard time with work because he just started his own business, and he had just got it going up north, and he ended up staying at my parents' house for
almost
9 months during the week,
Yeah.
and then coming home on weekends. And he would bring Jordan home on the weekend, and then Jordan and I, when we'd say goodbye on Sunday night, right? Yeah, Sunday night, and she and I would just cry at the back door saying goodbye to each other, and it was just so hard for me and heartbreaking. I just couldn't do it anymore. So she was at her dad's for 6 months, and I said to Stuart, I can't do this anymore. We'll have to go back up north and maybe just wait till Jordan graduates and Nathan goes on a mission for the church, and that's at 18 years old. And so we did. We went back up north and stayed in a house. We rented a house in Daybreak and lived there for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
And we
it was interesting. When we got there, we ended up. So we left this place, but we didn't take anything with us. That's probably when I say we didn't. We basically gave all of our belongings away. In this area, there's a lot of people who are in need, and so we decided we're not going to take all this stuff with us. So we gave it all away, and that made me feel amazing inside. We had a lot of stuff. We had so much stuff, and we gave it all away.
No, we weren't rich. We didn't. The only thing we bought was our couch and our
Extra.
dining table.
But
Those are the only 2 brand new things we had. But everything else we would get used off KSL Classifieds that's here local in Utah, and
well,
Facebook things.
Let me tell you how much stuff we had. We had 3. When I drove here, we had 3 truckloads, 26 footers of like a U-Haul, 26 footer U-Haul, 3 truckloads here. And when we left, we took, I think it was a 14 footer back, and that was it. And even then, when we moved back to our place that we rented for 3 years up in South Jordan in Daybreak, all we had were some beds, or not even beds.
No, we didn't have a bed.
We had mattresses.
Air mattress.
No, we had our.
We didn't have a bed because remember we had to buy one for my mom.
Oh yeah, that's right.
We didn't have
That's
a.
right.
We even
We
left
gave
our
it
bed here.
away. Yeah, and so, but then, it was kind of miraculous because I couldn't find. I knew I wanted to be close to family because she has 4 other siblings, and they were all living in that same neighborhood. We're the oldest, so they have a lot of younger siblings, or lots of nephews, nieces. I can't keep track of how many. But we felt like we needed to be there so we could help them out in ways, in some ways, And while we were there, I really think that we did, and we're still going to stay close with them and all. But it was really neat to be there while all these kids are growing up around us. Okay.
One of the biggest things I did notice now, my daughter, the oldest one, Taylor, who had gotten married, she ended up having a baby, and her husband's in the Air Force, National Guard, and he got called to Dubai for 6 months, and they had just had, she was about to deliver, and he went 2 weeks before her delivery to Dubai. And I was having the hardest time with that. I was like, no way. How could they let him leave? He needs to be there for the baby. So I prayed, and I told everybody else to pray. And I know they all thought I was crazy, but I was praying
like, hey,
so hard.
Sweetheart, this is the military.
This is the military. You don't get it.
Sorry.
Good luck with that, right?
Yeah.
So I told everyone, even people in the store, I told them this story.
She's like,
And
"Pray
they were
for
so
us."
sad, and so I told them I'm praying him home, and they said I'll pray too, and they were total strangers. Anyway, guess what?
I was one of those. Okay, I'll pray.
2
I'll
weeks
pray with you,
before,
but
2 weeks before this baby was born, her husband shows up at the door at 9 o'clock at night. She didn't even know. My daughter didn't even know he was coming home. And what happened was his sergeant or officer said, "What are you doing here? You're going to have a baby? Why are you even out here?" And sent him home, luckily in time. So he was there for the birth of their baby. And he was there for about 2 weeks to a month. I can't remember exactly. But my daughter was working and had horses, and so she stayed home for just 1 month with this brand new baby. And I was her only help, really. I didn't work, and so I was able to take care of sweet little Easton for 6 straight months while his dad's in Dubai and my daughter does her horse thing. And so out of all of it, I feel strongly that that's one of the biggest reasons why we ended up back there. Because if we were here in Elsinore, there's no way I would have been able to do that for her. Anyway, so
Yeah,
that was
huge.
a big miracle blessing.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful too, because I wouldn't have been able to bond with him the way we did. He's just such a sweet little boy. So
Yeah.
anyway,
And while we were there, we really felt like we were supposed to be there because we met a lot of people we thought we know we were meant to meet, and we're going to be lifelong friends because of it, and we're really happy. Now, I'll tell you what, it just killed me to rent. The rent over there was really expensive, and I know if you watch some of our other videos, we'll show you the type of place that we lived, and then now we're in it's a very kept HOA. I would say probably one of the model manicured places you ever see. In fact, I'd say half of the commercials that are in the Utah state, if they're showing a house or a neighborhood, it's in our neighborhood. And being, oh, that's so-and-so's
there's
neighborhood.
swimming pools and trails and lakes and
Yeah, it's all
paddle boats and
man-made,
sailboards.
manicured. It's beautiful, but
And even a temple's right there, the Ochre
Yeah.
Temple.
beautiful.
So it was hard. But anyway, so we rented this house out in South Jordan. We decided to go back so that I didn't have to be away from Stuart and Jordan. And we decided, well, we'll just wait till she graduates. Well, lo and behold, she decided she's going to graduate a whole year early. So she's 17 and she just graduated this year, 2020. Well, also, when we first started paying rent, it was around $1,900. Then it ended up every year that they would raise the rent, and we ended up around 23,
About 23, 24.
not including utilities. And it was just ridiculous how much rent we were paying. It was California prices. And then the
Not
whole
quite.
mine as well be. My sister actually paid less than we were, and
Wow.
she was in San Jose.
Wow.
So anyway, what was I saying? Oh, so then the coronavirus thing starts, And then the toilet paper and the water rations at the store started. Everybody's going crazy. And then I got a phone call or a text from my mom, and she's like, Leisha, if you don't have any toilet paper, you better hurry up because it's actually going quick.
Like what?
And so I was like, okay, this is nutso. So I decided one morning, it was 6 o'clock in the morning, work day, and everybody was asleep. Stuart hadn't gone to work yet. And I decided, all right, I'll go to the store early and go get some. Put my purse on my shoulder, I'm ready to go out to the garage, and all of a sudden there's an earthquake, a big one. I've never felt a big earthquake in Utah before, ever. I don't think I've ever felt an earthquake actually in Utah until this year, 2020, in March, right? And I've been in some in California. And I know that when you're sleeping, if you're asleep through an earthquake, you kind of get woken up and jolted a bit, and you're like, what just happened? And sometimes you don't know that it was an earthquake. And, but I was standing, and I just had this thought, don't go to the store, and I don't know why. Or I didn't know why at the time. So I put my purse back on the rack, and I thought, well, that's weird. And then the earthquake just shook me. And I'm standing, and I realized I needed that to happen because we know in the scriptures it says in the last days there's going to be earthquakes in diverse places. And Utah's due for some big ones. Well, this was a big one. It didn't cause damage where we were, but it caused damage in, where was it? Magna, that it hit. It did crumble some buildings and stuff.
Well, not all the way down.
Not all the way, but yeah, some damage was done. So anyway, I needed to experience this earthquake. It woke me up, and it said, basically to my heart, I knew it's time to go back. It's time to go back to Elsinore. So I told Stuart, I feel like this is a sign. We need to go back. And then at first he says, oh no, it's going to be all right, you know. And I was like, but the toilet paper ration and the water ration and everybody's going crazy and this coronavirus. I said, what if it's not going to get better? What if this is it? And what if we ignore it? It says over and over in the scriptures, people ignore signs. And you can just pass it off as, oh, it's just a happenstance. Or you can look at it as, and I've got chills right now as I'm saying it, that it was a sign. And a sign for me to say, Leisha, get out. You need to move back. It's time to go. And you need to get this land ready where we're at and get prepared. And I said, what if this is the sign? And if we ignore that, we're not going to be happy later. So then Stuart agreed, and here we are, back again.
Yeah.
And we actually ended up moving back on Pioneer Day, on July 24th. We didn't realize it till that day. Stuart said to me while we're packing, or packing up the truck, he said, happy 24th of July, happy Pioneer Day. And I looked at him, and I got chills.
Yeah, and I did too at the same time. It's kind of, whoa.
Because we really feel like pioneers.
Yeah. Now, I just wanted to say that, you know, I don't see myself as a prepper or anything like that. I think it's always been our prayer, you know, to be used as God's tools and be able to help people where we can. And I think anybody can do that wherever they are. But for some reason, we just have this call that we needed to be out here, and that we needed to. People will ask me, "Why are you out here? What brought you out here?" And besides the tranquility and kind of the smaller town feel, we just feel called, almost like, and this is going to be our mission. We're going to clean up. I mean, this place needs a lot of work.
It's run down.
Yeah, and it doesn't scare me too bad, except it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of money, but we're not doing it for ourselves. We're doing it so that we can help others. that's all we want to do is be able to help others, and we're not exactly sure what that means, but whether it's helping people just have friends, if it means helping them as we learn and start growing food, even though we're learning how to do all that. I mean, I'm about, I wouldn't call myself a city boy. I'm more of a suburbanite. I've grown up in the suburbs. I did a little bit of fishing and was not a very good fisherman. You'd know, because I went fishing like all summer and I'd never bring home any fish. I'd got a lot of big bites though, up in Washington State. But
he is an Eagle Scout though, and he loves camping.
I do, but we just have this overall, like, we want to turn this land and this place into just a place that we can help people. We're not exactly sure how we're going to do it, but we're going to do it. And I know a lot of times the way God works is he says here, and he puts you there, and then you kind of go, what am I doing here? And you have to move forward a couple feet, and then you see something, and then you move forward again and again. And that's why we're here, is we feel God led us here, and now we're kind of saying, okay, now what, God? And we're trying to keep our ears open and our hearts open to see what we need to do.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy, and I mentioned earlier, we're not rich.
Well, we're rich in love and happiness.
But we're not poor either. We're not. We had a really neat guy. He works with Stuart. He's one of the plumbers at their company. His name is Ciosi. He came out a few weekends ago to help put in some stuff for us. And he said that this place was amazing compared to how he grew up. He grew up in Tonga.
In Tonga, yeah.
And he said they would even sleep outside on the dirt. And so compared to a lot of people, we're rich. But, this place is pretty run down. There's nails in the floor. We had to tear up the floor. It flooded. Everything needs to be replaced. And it is a lot of work. And when I was 20...
It does have good bones.
When I was 20 years old, this would have been so exciting. Because I had a lot more energy. But I'm not 20 anymore. And neither is Stu. And it's hard. And then also the biggest, hardest thing to move back here this time, the first time it was exciting when we first moved here 5 years ago. It was exciting. But this time, when we moved back, since all this craziness happened with the virus and the masks and the closing of businesses and all that stuff, the hardest part for me was leaving my children, because my daughter Taylor with her baby, I was watching him and taking care of him still regularly. That was probably the most heartbreaking. But then Jordan, my daughter who graduated early, she didn't want to come here, and that broke my heart. But I understand, because she's done with high school now and she's ready to do her own thing, and a tiny town for somebody that age isn't so exciting usually. But I know she'll be back too, because she is a country girl at heart with her horse, and she loves animals. And so one day when she gets married, my hope is that Taylor and her husband Tyler and Easton, my grandbaby, is that they move out here too eventually, because they're cowboy people. They're farm folk. And then my son Nathan, he doesn't mind coming out here, even though he's not a cowboy at all. He didn't mind coming, but they didn't want to come during this big remodel. So, because we're going to gut this entire house. It's lath and plaster. It's got adobe walls inside. We're taking that down. There's so much stuff.
It's got 1950s
paneling,
electrical. Thank goodness I'm an electrician. Got change it all out.
Yeah, so there's a lot of old stuff in here that needs to just be redone, and the kids didn't want to be here during it. We did try remodeling the kitchen when we were living here before, and dust was going up to the kids' rooms upstairs, even though I double plastic the walls. So we are making videos and posting them on YouTube and Facebook. We made a page for this house called This Old 1920s Elsinore House, and also the historic cabin that's on the site. We're making videos of that. So we decided we are going to fix up the cabin, make that livable, and even add a bathroom so that we can stay in that while we gut this big house. And hopefully, with lots of miracles and prayers and people's help from family and friends who might be able to come out and donate time, or maybe if you have resources to donate. And his great friend Bo is donating, Bo H, because we know two Bo's.
Mm-hmm.
Bo H is donating a whole bunch of awesome lumber, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
and
definitely.
so
Some cedar.
so with lots of prayers from everyone, and it'll get going. You just can't quit. That's how it works, right?
Yeah, just keep moving forward.
Yep. So is there anything else? Did we miss anything?
No, I think overall people just wanted to know why we're here and what we're doing here. And I think the whole reason we're here is we're going to build this place so that we can serve others. And that's why we're here.
What some of the dreams we have for this place is to do some sort of community gardens, have people come and work in the gardens, maybe have a farmer's market here, have the locals come and sell their honey or their baked bread or their chicken eggs or the vegetables or fruit that they've grown, and also do some workshops for people. There's a lot of people who are retired and
they
need,
know a lot of stuff.
and they
that
have a
we
lot
don't
of
know.
skills to share and teach us all. So we just kind of want to make this community come together and have everybody share their skills and talents and become closer friends and become closer like a family. And then also Stuart has this dream of building a really cool barn, like a pretty white one, for things like wedding receptions or dance halls or even meetings, things like that, where we can get together and do some fun stuff. We'd like to have an outdoor stage. People can come play music, have campfires, I don't know, cool tree houses, greenhouses. I don't know. We want a swimming pool, we want a pond, we want it all.
Yeah.
So if anybody out there would love to come help us, we would love your help. And if you're bored, come on over and sit a spell. We got plenty of room. You can always just come camp on our property and share and if you can't physically help, maybe you've got some words of wisdom to share with us, and you can comment in our comment section on our YouTube and Facebook pages, or just stop by and say hi and introduce yourself. We would love to meet you. And so the Mannings are back, and we're here to stay, and we just want to tell the town of Elsinore how much we love you. And we also made this video for you because we felt like, maybe they thought we didn't like them when we left. And I feel like they just didn't. Not everybody knew the story. Some people knew the story of why we left, but not everyone. And so a lot of them have been asking and saying, are you back? Are you back for good? Are you just visiting? We're back for good. I mean, unless God calls us somewhere else, this is where we're staying.
That's right.
So we are back for good, and we're here to stay. And we just want to thank you all, the neighbors that we've met here, and how welcomed we felt when you came and helped us move in and brought us dinner and baked bread and brought us your vegetables during the summer that you grew, and we love you all, and we're so grateful to know you and to be a part of this fun family here in Elsinore. And so we didn't leave because we were upset at anybody. Not at all. That's not at all.
Yeah.
It was just hard on us with traveling back and forth with the kids and Jordan going to school there and Stuart working, but we're going to make this work now.
That's right. Well, God bless, and check out our other videos we're going to post, because we're going to keep things going to keep you posted on what we're doing. All right.
Okay, take care.
All right.
We love you. God bless you.